Okay, everyone, we are back into regular session from a closed and an executive session. We had 3 items. The first was a collective bargaining update. That was for information discussion only, no action taken. The second had to do with an update on the security issues with our computer networks. That again was for information only, no action taken. And the final matter was a litigation briefing with attorney Mark Lee. Again, that was for information and discussion only, no action was taken. And the first action item for the board is the consent agenda.
I'll move approval.
Seconded.
Thank you very much. We have a motion for us to approve the consent agenda. If there are no objections, we'll consider that passed unanimously. Are there any objections? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Do we have 8 or do we have 9 board members present?
We have 8.
Okay, it's 8-0 with 1 absence. The next board action is consideration of the order of 8 Gillig buses. Mr. Mountain, will you begin this?
Yes.
Ron?
Yep. Good morning. The executive committee met on March 10th last week and recommended that the board of directors approve the purchase order and 2023 capital budget commitment for 8 40-foot diesel transit buses from Gillig for a total of $4,828,398, including spare parts, a 5% contingency, and sales tax. We will use the Washington State contract for this order. Staff also requests an additional FTA WashDOT funded make-ready equipment installation and independent plant inspection allowance of $99,000 and a non-FTA funded parts and equipment allowance of $50,000 be established for a total project authorization of $4,977,398 to be budgeted in 2023. The background for this request is 8 of our 2011 model year Gillig buses will reach their 12-year minimum useful life, according to FTA guidelines in 2023. Staff is requesting replacing these buses with new 40-foot diesel buses. Gillig has indicated that orders placed now will take approximately 18 months for delivery. Ordering these buses prior to April 1st of this year will avoid a reported up to 8% price increase to the contract. I believe Mike said that would be an additional $300,000. Fiscal impact, WTA capital budget expenditures for the year funds will be distributed. This order will be received in 2023, and this approval will commit the total authorization for the 2023 budget. The total financial impact of this procurement is $4,977,398, which includes the estimated in-house make-ready cost of $99,000 and $50,000 non-grant funded equipment allowance. The 80% FTA section 5307 rules grant reimbursement is estimated to be $3,941,919 with a 20% local match and non-FTA funded cost of $1,035,480. We anticipate the surplus of 8 retired Gillig buses to generate a return of approximately $3,000 each from auction or approved resale based on previous sale revenues. And then you have an attachment that Mike included a breakdown of costs for this project.
Josh, could you scroll forward 2 pages and show that? Thank you.
If I may, sir, we did hear from the executive committee last week. Mike is working on that comparison chart of the electric buses, the hybrid and the diesels. We are working on that spend plan that we talked about last time to bring back to the board in May that talks about all the various dollars that we're getting, as Maureen will talk about with Move Ahead Washington getting approved, as well as the COVID relief dollars and what that plan is and how we're also dovetailing into the next agenda item, the zero emission bus transition plan. as part of that and how that all works together. The other new piece of information is that this week we did not receive good news on the low no grant for electric buses. Once again, it was a no for us, in part because of our great state of good repair causes a thing where they're saying that they want to use that money for those that have buses in worse condition than ours. So that's where we're at this point, but did want to note that we haven't forgotten about our discussion last week and the takeaways from that and are moving forward, working, bringing those together.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yeah, I abstained on this last week, and I don't think I can support it this week. Diesel's what $6 a gallon now. We're sitting on more money than we're probably ever going to have, and we're making the decision today to have buses that are diesel that'll be in service till 2035. I appreciate the work that's been done on this, and I look forward to the comparisons. But I mean, I can't get my brain wrapped around why we're not buying electric buses right now. I know they cost more. But so I don't know if we want to have that discussion now, or we barely touched on it a week ago. But if these go for 12 years, these buses will be in service till 2035.
John, so you can see participants. I can't tell if anyone else wants to ask a question or contribute.
Well, I'll chime in. Certainly support Todd in his wish to have further conversation on this and perhaps have a deeper dive. It's worthy of discussion and understanding. Whether that's today or put off for its own more concentrated agenda item.
So part of the reason that this was being brought forward now is we're trying to get ahead of the April 1 price increase on the diesel buses, recognizing that electric diesel buses are not a one-for-one swap out and needed to get some replaced per the FTA state of good repair. So that's what was driving this out of, which is admittedly a little out of sequence from presenting a zero emission bus transition plan. That the next item is part of the work plan for that transpo.
Scott, is your hand up?
Yes.
Go ahead, Scott.
I guess my recollection of the discussion last week too was that, this gets us in the queue. We can also change in the next 18, well, not probably 18 months, but we have time to switch to electric if we want to, before it's a firm order, if I understood correctly.
Yeah, I think we have about 7 months until, and if we don't change our mind before October or November, then they will be legal, like it or not. But we have up until that time with Gillig to revise the order.
And so with that time frame in mind, and knowing that if we get the order in now, it saves money and we can switch later if we need to, I guess I see it prudent to approve this at this point. So I'll make the motion to approve the recommendation.
I'll second.
I have a motion before us to approve the staff's recommendation to go ahead and purchase all diesel buses. Mr. Sidhu.
Yes, I will support this for now. Can you guys hold for a second? Just please. I have to leave at 8:30 also. How many total buses we have right now? Just approximate, it doesn't have to be accurate.
We have 62 fixed route buses.
Okay.
2 of which are electric.
Electric. So we're gonna have to come up with a schedule to change all 72 buses. I would suggest that if it may be a rough number, but if WTA can prepare that for next 10 years, this is how we intend to. I know it may not be accurate, but I think that would be a good information for us to digest that, okay, over next 10, 15 years, because half of us may not be here by then when all these things will change. But knowing that there is a deliberate schedule how we will do that, but these 8 buses, even if we end up buying them, will not be a significant increase in that, continuing with diesel. So I would support this for now. And if next 5 months, 6 months, we are good with our budget right now and money, and if the board decides to make some changes, we can. But I think having some kind of thought process with normal budgeting, not the budgeting we have right now, with our normal revenue, normal budget things, that how long it would take us to replace everything. So my suggestion is that. Thank you.
And if I may jump
So,
in, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Steph.
I apologize if someone else's hand was up. I'm going to support this for now as well, for the same reasoning offered by Executive Sadhu.
Okay, Sepal, could you lower your hand if you don't want to speak anymore? And I think we have sort of an unanswered question. Mr. Reardon has indicated that they'll be developing a spend plan, and part of that would presumably include a possible fleet electrification plan. But do we know for a fact that at least a majority of the board would support an electrification plan, right? I would. I think a majority of the board would support that. And so we need to see that plan. Ali, go ahead.
So my concern with that is, the performance that we've seen from the electric buses thus far. I think it's too soon to know. Yeah, that's my concern, is if we push forward with the electric buses and it doesn't get better, and then we have, this problem and it's multiplied itself, because right now we have 2. If it was a lot more than that, and we haven't figured out all these bugs and issues. I know it's kind of, people are talking about it on the ground level, and I'm wondering how we feel like that's going, because it seems like every time we talk about it, it's like, well, it's gonna happen soon, like we're gonna figure it out soon.
Well, my recollection is that Mr. Bozzo in particular anticipated we would have problems with the new buses the same way we had problems with the hybrids, and that to say that there are more problems than expected. Nonetheless, there are problems. I see 2 hands up, Megan and Todd. Megan, is it something that's pressing? Shall I go with Todd first?
I was just going to dovetail on what you just said, Michael. If we recall back with the hybrids, when we first got those, it took about a year to kind of get those dialed in. These buses, they're a new technology. Mike was very specific that it's going to take us a little bit of time. Gillig, great partner. They are working very closely with us and our team to make sure that the issues are addressed, and that going forward, we will not see as many. So Ali, I totally understand what you're saying. But like all new technologies, it's just going to take a little bit of time to work the kinks out.
Right, I understand that. Can you remind me how long we've had these 2 buses?
I believe, Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, we took delivery at the beginning of the year, kind of Q1, Q2.
Yeah, it was beginning of 21.
Okay. And we've got 2 more on order, and I don't believe we're slated to get those.
January.
Yeah, January next year. So
We'll go with.
They haven't hit production at all. So I'm hoping that once they get the kinks worked out with these ones, the next 2 that we get, those risks will have been mitigated by that time.
I'll recognize Todd, and then Holly Hoffman after Todd.
I might have this wrong, but are the 2 we have, are they configured differently, and there's a heater issue with one of them, and one of them is working okay, and the other one, because of the way the heater is set up or configured, or the sensors or something, is burning through battery powered quicker?
So we have
Figured this out.
programming issues. Just right now, we have Gillig on site here today. We have Cummins on their way today. Last week, we had a representative from Vallejo, which is the diesel powered heater, the auxiliary heater. They were here. They didn't solve anything with that. The only thing that happened was kind of made things a little bit worse. So yes, the one bus that's out on route right now is the diesel part of it is not kicking on at all. So it's running strictly on electric heat. So when you're burning all that energy, that bus is only out until, I don't know, maybe 1, maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon, then it's done. It's gone through its state of charge. So that's what we're kind of fighting right now is the programming, the software issues between the Gillig side, the Cummins side, and then, you know, all the different components. So everything kind of goes into this electronic highway. It's called the J. I can't even think it right now. I just brain blocked. But anyways, it's a communication line. So 1939. So everything is just trying to find its way through this, and we're just, unfortunately, we're having issues with the buses. We can't keep them out on the road as much as we would like to. But we do have Gillig and, like I said, Cummins on site today to help get us through this.
Holly?
I appreciate Todd for bringing this up and opening up the discussion. It feels like we're a little bit backwards in our decision-making here, and that we really need to discuss the electrification plan before we talk about actions adjacent to the electrification plan. But I get that it makes a lot of sense to me that we need to take some action now in order to potentially save money. So I will vote yes, with the understanding that we can change our mind as a fallback, because I'm looking forward to the discussion of the plan that really would drive this sort of an action.
Any further discussion by board members? Here's my question. It's kind of a leading question, which is, we have to replace some aging buses anyway. We need to place a bus order, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, and this is how we save money doing it. And the only question is whether or not it would be prudent and the board wants to upgrade those buses to electric. And we have a few months to make that decision. So under no scenario would we not purchase buses. Am I correct on that? And so I'm going to be supporting the motion, but like others, I want to look very seriously at a transition plan and consider, as Mr. Donovan says, this unique opportunity that we have in over the next few years, because the Move Ahead Washington is money we can bank on.
And if I may make a further comment, that in my opinion, I guess it's opportunity, but it's also makes it all more complex. Just as computers some years ago seemed to be doubling in their capacity every year, something similar seems to be happening with vehicles. Not exactly like that, but we're seeing dramatic improvements on an annual basis in electric vehicles and batteries. So it's conceivable that in the next couple of years, a lot of the problems, issues we've had, A, are going to be ironed out, and B, there's going to be better opportunities with better battery opportunity coming soon, I would anticipate.
Yeah, if I may, sir, I agree. I think we're, as a staff, optimistic that we'll work through these problems, and part of it is scale. That this is a new technology Gillig is putting out, so there are going to be growing pains with it. But I think we have confidence that as the demand increases and so forth, we'll be able to work through these. And much like the hybrids, which Mike kindly always reminds me that there was a rough patch there for 18-24 months. So.
We have a motion before us to approve the purchase of 8 diesel buses. Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want it, when we do have a further discussion, I do want everyone to, ponder the question, where's the power coming from? Because as we keep adding more electrical stuff to the grid, right now, the only new source of power that's available quickly is coal. And so I unless there's a whole lot of green stuff coming online that we're not all aware of, as we electrify, where's the power coming from? And we've talked about it before, but it's probably better to burn diesel in a bus than it is to burn coal to make power, to make an electric bus go. Anyway, but I'll be speaking or voting in favor of the motion.
If there is no further discussion, I'm going to go ahead and call the question and then turn to Les or staff to talk about that future spending plan, in particular, just to confirm the timeline for that information coming forward to the board. Is there any further discussion on the motion to approve the purchase of 8 diesel buses from Gillig? Seeing none, if there are no objections, we'll consider the motion passed. Actually, no, we're going to have to do a call on this. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed?
Oh,
Okay, so that passes, if I do my math right, 6-1 with 2 absences. Mr. Sidhu had to leave the meeting. Mr. Reardon, can you tell us about the timing on bringing forward the information that was kind of alluded to?
Yeah, so we've got the executive staff teams getting together. We've got time, an offsite all day to get together to talk about drafting up a spend plan. We've been having some discussions about what that looks like. Would bring that to, well, way back up. The reason we put it in April was to make sure Move Ahead Washington passed, so we knew the kind of revenue scheme. And then work with DOT to figure out what that revenue scheme would look like and kind of dollars that we would be talking in the transit support grant world, as well as some of the other bus facilities and the new programs that were passed. So that's why we put it in April. In April, we'll get together, do that. We've been talking about how we would spend and then come back to the board in May with a draft spend plan for your input and how we would adjust to that. Kind of the thinking on that would be that we would look at either an annual or biennium, because the transit support grants, for example, are biennium based, but look at that and then we can show what the revenues anticipated would be over a planning horizon, maybe till 2030, something of that nature, and say, okay, here's what the revenues would be anticipated. Here's what the expenditures would be. We could look at, kind of what our must pays, staff, for example, bus replacements, those kinds of things. And then look at what, for lack of a better term, kind of discretionary dollars would be left. And then look at those programs that we have on there. Must pays also include operation and maintenance of facilities and those kinds of things. And so kind of frame it that way. But that's an idea. But we can come back to the board and then, see if that's answering the questions, and then we can have that plan looking out going forward, recognizing that things change as grants come in or don't come in, and political leadership changes and so forth. But at least we can make some assumptions and develop a plan. Does that answer?
Okay, board members, any feedback or requests for Les and his staff with regard to that first look in April?
But it would actually be at the May board meeting because of when we would do the work in April, because we're still waiting to hear from WashDOT, kind of what some of that funding sources will look like and timing on some things.
Okay, thank you. May is when the board will be hearing back from the staff. Again, any requests or comments or feedback? Okay, thank you very much. We'll go on to the next item. And this one is the approval of an on-call contract for transportation planning services with the Transpo Group. Mr. Wilder presented that at the executive committee meeting. He's not here today. Megan, do you want to introduce this item, or who will take this?
I'll go ahead and take it, Tim, unless you, okay. Tim had coordinated with me as he had had to go out of town for his parents. But essentially, as talked about with the executive committee, and the executive committee recommended we enter into a contract with Transpo Group on an on-call basis. And essentially what they will be doing are projects helping us look at in no particular order, the Bellingham Transit Station, our zero emission bus transition plan, the speed and reliability study, looking at those kinds of things that are coming out of the 2040 plan, to say, as we talked about in the budget for this year, that we've got a couple-year planning cycle and then moving into implementation on that. There's also looking at in that study the potential of a bus rapid transit line and those kinds of things as we move forward. So Transpo will be doing some good work and exciting work to help us start looking at how we implement that 2040 plan.
So the executive committee, I'm sorry, the executive committee did recommend approval. I don't know if anyone wants to make a motion at this point.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Thank you. The motion before us is to approve an on-call contract for transportation planning services with Transpo Group. It's a 2-year contract with options to extend 3 more times in 1-year increments. WTA estimates an annual spending of $230,000, but of course that depends on what work we actually request and when.
And anything over 150,000 obviously comes back. Those are budgeted items for this year. And then anything over my authority obviously comes back, or if it's not budgeted.
Any further discussion on this item? I'm going to go ahead and call the question. All those in favor of approving the on-call contract with Transpo signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0 with 2 absences. Okay, we now move on to, I believe, reports to the board, of which there are several. I'll just go ahead and hand this to you, Mr. Reardons, to pass between various staff members.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. We'll lead off with a legislative report, as kind of indicated there. Some things have happened since we chatted last, and I'll turn it over to our lead, Maureen.
Thanks, Les, and good morning, everybody. I will keep this zippy because I know we have several reports. I'm sure everyone's aware by now that the Move Ahead Washington transportation funding package passed last week. And so I'll just highlight a couple of things that are sort of the initial next steps for us. The first one is that we now know that we have until October 1st to be fare free for youth, and good for us. We're almost all the way there. The law requires that we provide free fares for all kids under 18. And as you may recall, we provide free fares for all kids under 17. So we just have a little bit of work to do in order to make that October 1st deadline. And then once we do, we are eligible for what they're calling transit support grants. And this is direct funding, direct payments to WTA. The Department of Transportation is still working out the formula. And so we don't know exactly what that will mean for us, but it looks like for 2022, we're likely to receive approximately $1 million. We may also have an opportunity to work with the Department of Transportation on what the criteria should be as they designate that formula. And that's something we're paying close attention with the Transit Association to participate in that discussion. And I'll just highlight a couple other things. We'll also be eligible to compete for new funding through a bus and bus facilities grant modeled on a similar program at the FTA. And we will also have an opportunity to compete for a larger green transportation grant program. And you may remember that the 2 electric buses we have on order are from the green transportation program at the state. So they do have one now, it's just getting significantly larger. And then finally, we have a project listed in the funded projects list, which is our expanding Bellingham Station project. And we're kind of currently at the studying the scope stage of that and don't have a date on the calendar for that one. Also just wanted to mention that Les and Megan and I are coming to you from Washington, D.C. We're working on finding a federal lobbyist and have had 4 great interviews, the last of which we just came from an hour ago. And we're really having, what would you say, interesting and intriguing conversations. Everyone underscores that this is a really important time to have some representation. So more to come on that.
I guess I'll just follow up. So we appreciate the board's support on developing that legislative program to help us build a capacity, a capability, and programs and systems to intertwine our strategies as an agency with the efforts on back here, both not just on the Hill, but also with the agencies. To help us navigate some of those things and then coordinate and synchronize those efforts. So really appreciate that. Okay. Don't know if I can see everybody, but I don't see any hands from those that I see.
I have to seize this opportunity. Sorry, I'm jumping in without my video on. I lived in Washington, D.C. for a number of years. What neighborhood are you in right now? Are you on the Hill at this moment?
No, we are actually not that far away, but at on northeast, I guess. So kind of near Chinatown. I'll say that. That's
okay.
Marker.
Cool.
Yes, and Maureen came back and participated in the APTA legislative conference as well. So it's good. Okay. Not seeing any further questions. Thank you, Maureen. Appreciate it. And we'll move to the annual safety report. Jeff Benson, as you know, leads our safety efforts, and as of the first of this month has been promoted to our risk manager safety position. And so congratulations to Jeff. And I will turn it over to Jeff on the safety report.
All right, thank you, Les. Appreciate that. In case anybody's wondering, I'm reporting live from our Bellingham office at the admin building here on Bakerview Spur. So I'm going to try and share my screen with everybody here, if I can. Let's see here. Everybody see that?
Success.
Okay, well, I'm going to share some 2021 safety numbers, and these are preventable accidents through the 2021 calendar year. That includes our fixed route, paratransit, van pool, our admin, shuttle vans, and our route maintenance folks. So this next slide is FTA safety reporting requirements. The general requirements in the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan has some key components, one of them being safety performance targets. And on the right side of that slide there, you'll see some of the performance targets that we included in the plan. Obviously, fatalities is one of them. Total injuries, which we had one that was reported to the National Transit Database, which gives us a figure of 0.05 on injuries per 100,000 miles driven in revenue service. Same thing for safety events. The difference really between safety events and injuries can be security events and other things that are outside the realm of injuries. Again, we had one of those that was reported. I believe that was a rear end accident on Mount Baker Highway. And so one of the other components is system reliability. This has to do with the number of road calls or failures between or based on revenue miles driven. So paratransit was 53,616 miles as miles driven between failures. Fixed route is 14,874. So these are new statistics for us. I don't have a lot of data from 2020 or 2019 on that. The next slide here has to do with the number of fixed route accidents we experienced in 2021. This picture is pretty indicative of some of the trends that we have seen from 2021. This is a large bus hitting a fixed object going up, I believe that's Harris Avenue in Fairhaven. This is something that's been a trend, and we're trying to remedy that to the best of our ability. We classify accidents in 3 different ways. We have incidents, minor accidents, and major accidents. They're all tied to property damage dollar amounts. So you can see that we had a total of 27 accidents in fixed route this year, 11 of them being incidents, 10 minor accidents, and 6 major accidents. You can see that in 2020, we only had 16 fixed route accidents. That's primarily due to less miles driven, less traffic on the road during the pandemic, and just lower volume all the way around for traffic, I think, in the general area. In 2019, you can see that we had 45 fixed route accidents. Moving to paratransit, we only had 6 paratransit accidents in 2021, 2 incidents, 3 minor accidents, and 1 major accident. You can see that in 2020, we had only 3 accidents in paratransit, and in 2019, we had 13. This has been an area of improvement for us over the last 3 to 4 years. Our operators have really taken extra caution and care with our elderly riders in paratransit, and they've done a fantastic job in that area. As far as the numbers go, we did have 33 total preventable accidents in 2021, excuse me. 82% of them were in fixed route, only 18 in para. Happy to report that we had no accidents in van pool administration and or route maintenance, which was outstanding for us. You can see that we drove 1.9 million miles in fixed route for 2021. And then there's some reference there to 2020 and 2019. You can see about a 200,000 mile drop from 2020. And then we were well over 2 million miles driven in fixed route in 2019. Paratransit, we were just shy of 700,000 miles, 581,000 in 2020. And in 2019, you can see we were getting close to 1 million miles. So some of the trends that we've obviously identified is we're striking a lot of stationary objects, mailboxes, parked vehicles, street signs, and we're trying to work on that. 72% of our accidents were stationary objects in fixed route, only 14% in para, and then only 14% involving moving vehicles, if you will. So back in December, we addressed our operator transit group with some strategies and ideas to correct behavior. Some of those being, obviously, the first thing you do when you get in a bus is correctly adjust your seat and mirrors. Our triple LC is leave room, look ahead, look around, and communicate. That comes from our WizTip operator driving series information. When you're traveling in a straight lane, check your mirrors every 8 to 10 seconds. When you're turning, you should be checking your mirrors a minimum of 6 times, and rocking and rolling frequently in the seat to eliminate blind spots. And then probably most importantly, you can always stop the bus prior to contact. This is something that we encourage our drivers to do if and when possible. Moving on to injuries for our employees for the year. The total recordable injury rate is based on the number of labor hours that we work as an agency. That's a formula. The industry average is 4.25 to 4.5. You can see that in 2021, we only had 7 injuries, and we had a TRIR of 3.02. So there's a little history there regarding how we're doing with the employee injuries. The only other thing I would add at this point, I think, is that we had a pretty good year from a safety perspective. One thing I will add is that we paid out about $44,000 in property damage claims in 2021. And in 2020, we were over 100,000. Kind of hard to gauge because there are claims being resolved from previous years. So it may not be a year-to-year type of a thing, but again, $44,000 for last year. So
Question?
questions?
Can you give us a flavor of the types of injuries that occur?
Strains and sprains. We did have a couple people slip on the ice in December and hurt themselves. But typically what we see is a few cuts, but a lot of, I won't say a lot, but I would say sprains and strains primarily.
And just getting on and off the bus?
Yes, off and on the bus. A lot of people stooping to secure wheelchairs and mobility devices. People sometimes slip, tripping and falling on stairs, curbs, outside. But overall, we had 7 injuries for the year, which was better than most. So. Any other questions for me?
Thanks, Jeff. I don't see any, but thank you. Appreciate you tracking that and then taking that approach back with the training department and the operators and fleet and so forth to make sure we're learning those lessons. So appreciate that. Okay, next report is over to Michael Harpool, who runs our van program. And part of that is the van grant, where we have the policy where we surplus vans to certain organizations, and they have a requirement under that policy to report back to us on how they're using it and so forth. And Michael leads that. And so I'll turn it over to Michael to report on that, please.
Thank you, Les, and hello, everybody. I'm going to take a second to share my screen here. And is that PowerPoint visible for everyone?
Sure is.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, as introduced, my name's Michael Harpool, the transit planning coordinator. I manage the van pool and also have been monitoring the community van grant program over the last year or so, which has been really a pleasure. And today I'm going to provide a quick recap for you. So in the winter of 2020-2021, WTA awarded 3 vans through the community van grant program. The recipients were Whatcom County Emergency Medical Services, Vamos Outdoors Project, and the Lighthouse Mission. Each of these organizations was able to utilize their van to break down significant transportation barriers within our community. WCEMS provided essential medical transport services for individuals experiencing homelessness during the pandemic. So there was a lot of COVID positive transports utilized or done with that van. Vamos Outdoors Project connected Latinx and English language learner youth to environmental education and recreational opportunities. And the Lighthouse Mission provided their members with access to medical facilities, social services, day-to-day shopping, religious services, and many other events throughout the community. The charts above here, on the left, we're showing the monthly mileage, and on the right, the variation in the number of passengers trips provided per month. So over just the course of 1 year, these organizations provided over 2,000 passenger trips, covering nearly 14,000 miles. August, we had our biggest month of the program with over 2,500 miles and approximately 300 passengers. So obviously some variation, but in the summer months, we saw the most action. Monitoring this program has been greatly rewarding, and it's safe to say that each of the trips provided by WCEMS, Vamos Outdoors, and the Lighthouse Mission has had a positive impact on our community. And as I said, this will be brief. If there are any questions, feel free to ask or comments.
Go ahead and stop sharing your screen so you can see people.
Yep.
Michael, I have a question. It's great to see how these vans are being put to use. How long do you think they'll be able to use them before they they fall apart on the recipients. How many years do you think they'll be getting out of these? Have we had any granted vans die yet?
Let me just make sure. Am I done sharing my screen? Or is this up? Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, so no, they've been really staying well maintained and acting well for these groups. And in my final report, I suspect them to last a couple more years. So they're not putting crazy mileage on them. They're around 7,000. So if they stay on that pace, I believe they can last these organizations quite some time, especially if they keep up with their maintenance. So after this year of reporting, they belong to those groups now, and they don't have to report on that or follow any other sort of contractual agreement. But I think they value these vans a lot, and all of them have already made note back to me that they're going to be applying again, and looking forward to the next rounds. But yeah, with the mileage that they had on them going into the program and the way that they performed throughout, I can see quite a few more years and many more trips provided with these.
Not seeing any more questions. Michael, thank you. Appreciate you running that program, and then also the time you invest with them as well to get that great information. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay, next report. As you know, we started last month trying to report to the board on each of our mission statement bullets. As you know, our mission is to enhance the community, and to do so through safe, friendly, efficient, reliable service, through innovation, partnerships, and environmental solutions. And so trying to talk about what we're doing under each of those bullets, so the board has a good perspective on the efforts tied to those. So last month, Eric kindly gave us a safe, friendly, efficient, reliable service update. And so this month we'll do partnering, and Maureen leads that. So over to you, Maureen. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. Just a snapshot today with a couple of bullets under each of the following categories: planning and multi-agency coordination, serving the community, beyond Whatcom County, and purposeful fun. So first, under planning and multi-agency coordination, we have met with the City of Blaine planning staff to discuss some of WTA's involvement in land use planning. We're soon to meet with the Bellingham School District and have had some initial conversations about the possibility of partnering on our sustainability efforts. And we've also assisted local communities with some priority planning and construction projects. So for example, bus stops on the Thornton Road extension in Ferndale, as well as the Lincoln Lakeway multimodal transportation study in Bellingham. Under serving the community, you just heard about one great program from Michael, the Community Van Grant Program. And another one would be early work that we're doing with the City of Bellingham on their Downtown Ambassador Program, which I think really kicks up here this spring. Beyond Whatcom County, we have hosted Rick Larson and are working with him to help get the word out on how the funds from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act are making their way into the communities. And he's especially interested in our efforts to secure additional zero emission buses. And then also our work here to lay the foundation for developing an ongoing and really purposeful relationship with our congressional delegation as well as the FTA. Under purposeful fun, starting on Monday, we will have educators from the Smart Trips program, as well as a WTA transit operator and bus, out to teach over 1,000 7th grade students throughout Whatcom County how to ride the bus, and also what one looks like and what it's like to interact with a fabulous WTA transit operator. So we're super, super excited about that, working to develop the next generation of bus riders. And we also co-sponsored a lighted bike parade back in December with the City of Bellingham, the Downtown Bellingham Partnership, the Historic Fairhaven Association, Whatcom Smart Trips, Whatcom Smart Trips, WeCoo, and Puget Sound Energy. And if you haven't heard, we are teaming up with most of those same players for a big event on May 1st. More to come with details on that.
All right. Any questions on those efforts or things? We would appreciate any thoughts that you all may have on increased partnerships and ways we can leverage each other, particularly the experience that you have in your home jurisdictions to make transit and transportation better. So always open for ideas on that, looking ways to leverage. Okay, I rambled there to see if there were any questions. Seeing none. Last report is on my report. So a couple items to follow back up on. Last month, Eric talked about the bathrooms at the Bellingham station, and as you know, we've closed those due to illegal activity in those and drug use. Jeff Benson led the effort with the county to have those looked at, the county health department, and found sufficient levels that we needed to clean those. And so that's underway to do that. In recognition, though, that we still wanted to provide a service, at least, that we do have portable toilets there that folks can use. Again, running into some illegal activity use with those, which has been a challenge. But that's the status of that. And as we're running into some of the similar things at Cordata, station, we're looking at doing the same thing there. On the COVID front, as you know, last, what I guess was the 11th on the state level, masking changed. And so we have at Moab, masks are optional. However, on the federal level, masking requirement continues through April 18th. So we're continuing masking on the bus, although you don't have to, it's optional on the concourse. So we're working, or outside, I should say. So we're working on that. Some of the other things on COVID, returning to business travel. So folks are doing that. We were able to get a number of tests from the chamber, and folks can access those to make sure they're doing okay after travel. And then evaluating all our policies and procedures to see, as we shift from a pandemic emergency response to more of an endemic operating environment, how do we do that, particularly in light of other emergency orders that are still there, and what kinds of things do we need, and what are the effects of amending those policies. But that effort is underway. We have a incident management team that works on those. Shonda has indicated that she's heard from the state auditor's office, and on the 4th of April, the annual audit will kick off. So I know Shonda and Aaron and the finance team are looking forward to that, as is everybody else. But the team does a great job, and this would be, is this shooting for 24 or 25, Shonda, years in a row?
20, I think it's to be 25.
25, yeah. So this is a big milestone year. So that's pretty cool.
No pressure.
Yeah. I meant that as a cool thing, not as a pressure thing. And then also sticking with the finance theme, the American Rescue Plan grant is awaiting final approval with the FTA. As you know, that's supposed to be used for salaries and benefits, but we will factor that into our spend plan on that. Maureen talked about the Move Ahead Washington and where we are with that, and trying to figure out some of the things on that. Part of that is the $5 million for the Bellingham station. We don't know the timing of that yet. That money going to the capital side is coming out of the climate action dollars. And so it's not a bonded thing where they have that money up front and they can say, okay, go, and we'll use that money to reimburse it. So it's going to be sequenced out, but we don't know what that sequence looks like at this point, which is okay, because as Maureen indicated, we're working with the community to figure out what the demand signal requirements are to do that right. for downtown and our system as well. And then the last thing I'll say is just on the recruiting side. Vanessa and Eric and the team looked at and have adjusted our transit operator recruitment process to an ongoing recruitment as opposed to doing it in episodic periods. So hopefully that will level set and smooth that recruitment process and hopefully make it a little bit easier. Additionally, the team worked to plan out recruitments across the year. So we have a recruitment calendar because, as you know, there's the recruitment side, but then there's also onboarding and getting folks on benefits and all those kinds of things that we need to do. So we wanted to make sure we had that planned out to make it a smooth process. And then the last thing is the fleet and facility director, as Mike passed along to you last month. He is retiring in August, sadly for all of us, but excited for him. But that has opened up, and this week is on the Prothman website on that. So if you know good candidates on that, or if anybody's watching and knows good candidates, please take a look at the Prothman site on that. So I will pause there and see if there are questions. All right, I'm not seeing any, sir, and that's all we have.
Okay, thank you very much, Les. Is there any further business? Okay, if not, thank you everyone very much. This concludes the WTA board meeting for March. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.